So you want to make games. Not just play them, make them. You've got ideas. Maybe a whole world in your head. Characters, environments, stories. And somewhere along the way somebody told you, where you figured out that Blender is how you bring the 3D side of that to life. So you downloaded it. Maybe you've even spent some time in it. And now you're staring at this massive, open-ended tool, trying to figure out, where do I even start if my goal is games specifically? Because here's the thing nobody tells you up front. Blender for game dev and Blender for film or art are not the same discipline. The workflows are different. The rules are different. What makes a model good is completely different. And if you learn the wrong things first, even from great tutorials, you will spend months building skills that actively work against you in a game pipeline. I've seen it happen over and over. And this video exists so it doesn't happen to you. Here's what I'm going to give you today. A complete, honest roadmap for using Blender specifically for game development in 2026. Not a list of tutorials to watch. Not a software comparison video. A real, structured path, broken into phases, that takes you from zero to someone who can actually contribute 3D assets to a game project. I'm going to cover what to learn, in what order, why that order matters, and which rabbit holes to completely ignore until you're ready for them. I'm also going to talk about the engine question, Unreal versus Unity versus Godot, and how your choice affects what you focus on in Blender. Because it does, more than most people realize. And at the end, I'm going to tell you what the actual job market looks like for game artists right now in 2026. Because the honest answer is more nuanced than either the doom crowd or the hype crowd is telling you. Let's go. Before we get into the roadmap, I need to give you the single most important concept in game art. The one that changes how you think about everything you make in Blender. It's called the polycount problem, and it's not what most beginners think it is. See, when you're learning Blender for the first time, nobody's telling you to stop. Add more geometry, more detail, sculpt deeper, subdivide again. The tools reward complexity. The renders look better with more. But games run in real time. Every polygon, every texture, every light. Your player's GPU is calculating all of it, every single frame, 60 times a second. Which means game art has a constraint that film art doesn't. Your model has to look great and be cheap to run. And learning to think inside that constraint to get maximum visual quality out of minimum geometry is a completely different skill from just learning to model. Here's why that matters for your roadmap specifically, and why most beginners skip this and pay for it later. Phase 1. Learn the constraint before you learn the tool. Most Blender for game dev roadmaps start with learn to model, then learn to texture, then export to engine. And technically that's correct, but it skips something critical at the very beginning. Phase 1 is about learning to think like a game artist before you go deep on any specific skill. Here's what that looks like practically. First, understand the difference between high poly and low poly. In game dev, you almost always build two versions of a model. A high poly version with all the beautiful detail, and a low poly version, the one that actually goes into the game, with a fraction of the geometry. Then you bake the detail from the high poly onto the low poly as texture information. This workflow is the backbone of professional game asset creation, and understanding it from day one changes how you approach every single model you make. Second, learn what a UV map actually is. UVs are how your 3D model gets a 2D texture wrapped around it. Bad UVs mean bad textures. Stretched, blurry, broken. Most beginners treat UV unwrapping like a chore they deal with at the end. Game artists treat it like part of the design process because it is. Third, learn your target polycount ranges. A hero character in a modern game might be 50,000 to 80,000 polygons. An environment prop might be 500 to 5,000. A background building might be 200. These numbers vary by engine, platform, and project scope, but having a sense of budget from the start means you're making intentional decisions, not just modeling until something looks right. None of this requires you to be deep in Blender yet. This is context, and context is what makes every hour of Blender practice more efficient. Now, once that context is in place, here's where your actual Blender learning begins. Here's something that frustrates me about how game art education is structured online. You'll find incredible tutorials on modeling, incredible tutorials on texturing, Incredible tutorials on rigging, on sculpting, on baking, on retopology. But almost nobody shows you how those skills connect. Where do they go in? Which ones you need before the others make sense? Which ones you can skip for now and come back to? So most beginners end up with this patchwork of half-learned skills that don't talk to each other. They can model okay, but their UVs are broken. They can texture, but they never learn to bake, so their assets look flat in Engine. They rigged one thing by following a tutorial and have no idea how to do it again. The skill stack for game art has a specific architecture. And once I lay it out for you, phase by phase, the whole thing clicks into place. Phase 2, hard surface modeling and the full asset pipeline. This is where you get your hands dirty in Blender for real. And your goal in this phase is not to learn every tool. It's to complete the full pipeline on a single simple asset, start to finish. Pick something like a crate, a barrel, a sci-fi panel, a sword, something with clear shapes and no organic curves. And take it all the way through. Model the high poly version. Get the detail right. Then build the low poly version manually. This is called retopology, and yes, it's tedious, but it's a core game art skill, and there's no shortcut that replaces understanding it. Then UV unwrap the low poly. Then bake the high poly detail onto the low poly using Blender's bake system. Then take that into a texturing tool. Substance Painter is the industry standard, Blender's own texture paint works for learning, and add color, roughness, metallic detail. Then export it. Drop it into your engine of choice. Light it. Screenshot it. That full loop, model, retopo, UV, bake, texture, export engine, is the game asset pipeline. And doing it once on something simple teaches you more than 6 months of isolated tutorials. Phase 3, environment art and material thinking. Once you can do that pipeline on a hard surface prop, you expand. Environments, modular pieces, tiling textures, level of detail, LODs, which are multiple versions of the same asset at different polygon counts that the engine swaps between depending on how far away the player is. You also start thinking about materials differently. In games, you're rarely just making one texture for one thing. You're making material systems, a set of textures that can be reused across multiple assets to keep your file sizes down and your visual consistency up. This phase is also where the engine question becomes critical, because Unreal Engine's material system works differently from Unity's. Godot has its own approach. The shaders, the texture channels, the export settings, they're not the same. And you need to know your target engine to set up your Blender workflow correctly. My honest take on the engine question in 2026. If you want to work at a studio, learn Unreal. It dominates the industry right now. Not just games, but virtual production, ArchViz simulation. The Unreal skill transfers further. If you're an indie developer building your own project, pick the engine that fits your project scope. Unity and Godot are both genuinely excellent for smaller scale work. But know your engine before you go deep on Phase 3. Because some of what you're building in Blender is specifically for where it's going to live. Okay, so by the end of Phase 3, you can make props. You can build environments. You understand the pipeline. You've got assets and engine. Most roadmaps stop there. You're a game artist now. Go build a portfolio. But there's a phase for that separate artists who can do this from artists who actually get hired or sell assets or build something shippable. And it's the phase nobody talks about because it's not technically a Blender skill at all. It's something that trips up even artists who are genuinely talented. And once I name it, you're going to immediately recognize it as the thing you've been avoiding. Phase 4, finishing and commercial thinking. Phase 4 is about finishing things and understanding what finished means in a game context. Here's the problem. Game art never feels done when you're in the middle of it. There's always more detail you could add, better textures you could paint, more props to fill the environment, more polish on the normals. And because the tools are so deep, because Blender alone could occupy you for years, it's incredibly easy to keep iterating and never ship anything. The artists who build careers, whether that's getting hired at a studio, selling asset packs on the Fab Marketplace, or shipping their own indie game, are the ones who learn to define done and then stop. In practical terms, Phase 4 looks like this. Complete one portfolio-ready game asset pack. Not one asset. A cohesive set, 5 to 10 props that belong to the same visual world. Same art direction, same texture resolution, same polygon budget. Packed up cleanly, documented, ready to drop into a project. This is what a studio art test looks like. This is what an asset pack on a marketplace looks like. The act of doing this once teaches you more about game art production than almost anything else. Learn to screenshot and present your work correctly. Turntables, wireframe breakdowns, texture channel breakdowns, in-engine screenshots with real lighting. How you present a game asset is a skill in itself. And it's what hiring managers and marketplace buyers are actually evaluating when they look at your portfolio. And start paying attention to the market. What's selling on Fab? What art styles are studios putting out job posts for? What does the gap look like between what you make and what's commercially relevant? You don't need to chase trends, but you do need to be aware of them. Here's the honest state of the game art job market in 2026. It is competitive, it has contracted from the peak years, and studios are leaner. But they're still hiring, specifically for artists who have a clean pipeline, a strong specialization, and the ability to hit a brief without hand-holding. The generalist game artist role is harder to land than it was 3 years ago. The specialist, the environment artist, the prop artist, the technical artist who bridges Blender and Engine, is still very much in demand. Know your lane. Build toward it. Finish things. That's phase 4. So that's the roadmap. 4 phases, built on an honest understanding of how game art actually works. But here's the question I know some of you are sitting with right now. How do I know when my work is actually good enough to start putting it in front of studios or on a marketplace? What does that bar look like? And how do I measure my own work against it without just guessing? That's something I'm going to dig into in an upcoming video on this channel. What portfolio ready actually means at different stages of a game art career, and the specific things that get work rejected versus shortlisted, because those two things are not always what you'd expect. If you want that video when it drops, subscribe right now. Turn on the bell. This channel is built specifically for people who are serious about making 3D a real part of their career, not just a hobby they're indefinitely getting into. And drop a comment below. Tell me, where are you in this roadmap right now? Are you still figuring out the basics in Blender? Deep in phase 2, trying to crack the baking workflow? Already in Engine and wondering what's next? Tell me where you're stuck. I read every single comment, and it directly shapes what I make next. I'll see you in the next one.